and then close. And I don't need all of this chain, so I'm going to cut some of that. And then for a little finishing touch, I'm going to take a head pin, and I'm just going to drop a couple of crystals on there. And then I'm going to use my round nose pliers to wrap a loop. I'm going to start the loop, and then I'm going to slip it onto the very end of the chain. And then I'm going to close. And this just adds a little finishing touch to the back of the necklace. And then trim the wire, and then this necklace will be complete. For the next illusion necklace that I'm going to do, I'm going to be using the Supple Max thread, and I'm going to be using some of my favorite freshwater pearls. This comes in a 4, a 6, and an 8 millimeter, and I'm going to do a multi-strand. So I'm just going to show you how to do multi-strand illusion using these pearls. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my Supple Max, and I'm just going to cut it into a 17-inch length. And again, the clasp and the clamshells are going to add length to the necklace, so if you want it shorter than that, you would be sure and cut the Supple Max to that length. You really don't need any extra. I am going to be using a measuring tape to space out the pattern on the Supple Max when I'm crimping, and I am using a 1x1 crimp bead, and they are 1x1 tube, and they're very tiny, and they do kind of get lost sometimes, but this is what we're going to be using, and they have a very low impact on the way the necklace looks. And so the first thing we're going to do is on several of the strands, what I've done is on the smaller strand I did 3 strands, and I did one strand where I spaced each one out an inch. Second strand I spaced everything out 1.5 inches, and the next strand I spaced out 2 inches. Just depends on the pattern and what you want to come up with. This I'm probably just going to go ahead and space this larger one, the 8 millimeter, into 1 inch. So the first thing I'm going to do is string on one of the 1x1 crimps, and I'm going to figure out where my 1 inch is on my measuring tape, or thereabout. Doesn't have to be perfect. And using my flat nose pliers, I'm just going to crimp the crimp bead to where it's flat. And then I'm going to string on a pearl. And I pick up pearls randomly. These are multicolored, so I'm not trying to pick a color pattern. I'm just picking them up randomly. And then I'm going to string on another crimp bead. And bring it down to the pearl, and I'm going to flat crimp that crimp bead right against the pearl. Then I'm going to string on another crimp bead. And remember, for every bead you have 2 crimp beads. So what I've done is as many times as I've done this, I've kind of worked out a little pattern, and I'm just going to, or a technique, and I'm just going to lay it on my measuring tape, crimp that one bead, and then string my pearl on until I get to the end. You can do this in single strands, you can do multi-strands. I just chose to do a multi-strand for this project. But this way the pearls kind of float, and you really can't, using these little bitty guys, you can't tell that they're there too much. Just continue this until you get to the end of the strand. Okay, now that I'm near the end of this strand, I'm going to add my last bead and my last crimp bead, and then I can show you how to complete the necklace and assemble everything, put it all together. I'm just going to... Okay, and as you can see that it's really not even on the ends, and that's okay because the way we're doing the multi-strands, it's going to all jumbled together and you won't be able to tell something is not the same. I have the 3 strands of the smaller beads that I did, and then the 1/8 and then the 1/6, and I have also a 3-stranded clasp, and I'm going to add the 3 smaller strands into one loop, and then I'm going to add the 6, and then I'm going to add the 8, so they kind of cascade together. And we're going to end them in clamshells again. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take these first 3 little strands, little pearl strands, and I'm going to put the ends together, and then I'm going to slip on a clamshell. So I'm going to slip all 3 of the strands into the clamshell. Then I'm going to use a 2x2 crimp tube to crimp. I'm going to open this up a little bit. To open it, you can just gently pry it open with the pliers. But you want to be careful not to open it too much. There we go. I'm going to use a 2x2 crimp tube, as I said. And what we're going to do here is, just as we did in the other project, we're just going to slip it. This time I'm slipping it over all 3. I'm just going to slip it over the end. I'm going to try to crimp it as close to the end as possible. Again, I'm flat crimping. And then I'm going to bring the clamshell up over the crimp tube. And if you want, you can go ahead and trim the little edges of this. And then bring the clamshell up and then close it. And then I'm going to do the same to the other end. And close it. And then what you would do is, it's best when working with the multi-strand clasp to keep everything straight, is to keep it together so that you know that you're getting the same holes. So I'm just going to slip it into the bottom hole and put the hook. Well, then I'm going to close the hook. I can get hold of it. There we go. And then the opposite I'm going to do in the same loop on the other side. And then I'm going to do the 6mm strand and add a clamshell, crimp tube. Again, crimp it as close to the end as possible. Slip the clamshell over, close it. And this strand I'm going to put on the middle loop. And then again, on the middle loop. And then for the last strand, we're going to repeat the same and add it to the outer loop, and then we'll be complete. And now we've completed our multi-stranded illusion pearl necklace. Hi, I'm Carla Schaefer, A&T Speeds Designer, and I'd like to invite you to check out the Learning Center on our website for design ideas and jewelry making projects and other Carla Cam videos.